Sometimes you feel like you're on a completely different frequency than others, right? Lately, your mind seems to be working beyond human limits. Your intuition, thoughts, and visions are so powerful that those around you are watching you with amazement and admiration. People are whispering, talking among themselves, saying, "There is a secret in this. This is not the mind we know." Chosen one, your mind is not an ordinary mind. It is unique in this world. New doors are opening. The curtain of the unknown is being lifted, and a potential is being activated in you that humanity has never been able to access. Get ready and write 77 in the comments, because with this video, you will ignite your own mental revolution. At a crossroads of fate, the tides of justice are shifting in ways nobody expected. An individual who built their entire existence on manipulation and deception has just been caught in a sequence of catastrophic errors, each one carving out a path toward their undoing. The first pivotal misstep saw them, in their arrogance, unwittingly give you the advantage. Next, an unexpected supporter stepped out of the shadows, armed with the final evidence that would forever lock in their downfall. Finally, the one person they always believed would guard their secrets has turned against them, joining the movement to hold them accountable. This series of events has set the stage for a revelation so explosive that it's about to shatter records in modern justice, and all while they were convinced their secrets were locked away forever. Unbeknownst to them, a network of separate investigations, each led by different teams, none aware of the others, has been meticulously building a case that will leave nothing hidden. Behind closed doors, 5 independent teams have been tracing the threads of corruption. There's a group that's been mapping the trail of illicit financial activity. Meanwhile, investigative reporters are piecing together links to mysteries that were thought unsolvable. At their own workplace, a file of complaints has been growing thicker by the day, cataloging years of abuse and misconduct. In another corner, legal authorities have been scrutinizing every under-the-table deal and every suspicious payment. The most jaw-dropping development, however, comes from within their own camp. A legal advisor who has quietly preserved a record of everything, just in case loyalty one day demanded self-protection. Technology they believed to be deactivated continued to quietly collect information. Conversations, supposedly private, ended up in the hands of those determined to see justice served. While one by one, their efforts to silence and erase have failed, each misstep has contributed another piece to the puzzle, one that paints the complete picture. All this has been happening while you stepped away from the storm and rebuilt your life. In the process, you have evolved into someone no longer defined by past suffering, but by resilience and self-mastery. While your focus was on personal transformation and growth, your adversary became entangled in a web of their own making, believing their position was unassailable. What they didn't see coming was the shift inside their closest confidant, a person who finally witnessed one cruelty too many and was reminded of the harm you suffered in years past. In that moment, self-preservation kicked in, and they began collecting and protecting an archive of damning information, not with betrayal in mind, but out of an instinct for survival, sensing that someday the tables would turn. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom. For you were created to do even greater things. In God's loving hands. May God bless you. What's even more astonishing is the breadth of the case now unfolding. Documents exist that trace every illicit payment. Audio and visual recordings capture admissions, confessions, and deals made in secret. Digital conversations reveal more than enough to overwhelm even the most seasoned investigators. The revelation. Your experience wasn't unique. There are nearly 20 others who walked the same path, including figures whose success and public presence make them impossible to ignore. The person who wronged you didn't just make an enemy of one. They created an alliance of powerful individuals, all ready to step forward with their own stories when the moment comes. In the shadows, an invisible alliance has grown. Well-known voices for fairness and transparency, dedicated officials, industry titans, all have been watching and waiting for their moment to act. The culmination of their efforts isn't just about exposing one individual's misdeeds. It's about unraveling a complex, deeply entrenched system of wrongdoing that's been propped up by connections, secrets, and silence. Now, with the world's appetite for truth and justice reaching a fever pitch, everything is aligning for the most profound reckoning in years. It's no longer a matter of isolated whispers. This is the thunderous roar of truth, ready to break the silence. What's most ironic is that the very pillars that propped up this corrupt figure, status, relationships, success, have all become ammunition in the coming battle for accountability. Every promotion, every victory, every bit of influence gained by stepping over others will now serve as evidence in the dismantling of their empire. Their so-called triumphs are being re-examined under the light of truth, revealing the shaky foundation of exploitation and dishonesty on which they were built. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. The informant at the center of this turning point had the foresight to gather and protect the materials that now form the backbone of this historic reckoning. With each misdeed recorded, with every dollar traced, with every private message catalogued, the evidence only grew more formidable. This wasn't about betrayal for betrayal's sake. It was about bracing for the inevitable day when the darkness would be exposed and the right person would be strong enough to confront it. Now, the moment they've dreaded is here. Those who thrived on secrecy and intimidation are feeling the ground shift beneath them. The sense of invincibility is gone, replaced by the certainty that a day of reckoning has finally arrived. You, once written off as a casualty of their ambition, have emerged as the catalyst for sweeping change. The power you've built, through credibility, through perseverance, through integrity, has become the single greatest threat to their web of deceit. As the final pieces fall into place, it's clear that you are not alone. With allies mobilized, witnesses prepared, and the weight of evidence ready to tip the scales, your voice is about to ignite a tidal wave of justice. One declaration of truth from you will set off a cascade of revelations, uniting individuals and investigations across every corner of the landscape, and collapsing an entire legacy of corruption in a single, unstoppable surge. Some people spend their whole lives trying to bend the rules to suit their plans, but what they never realize is that the tighter they grip, the faster everything slips through their fingers. Their elaborate tactics to rewrite the story will backfire in ways that make their every move a public display of fear and guilt. Instead of controlling the message, their every attempt to hire outside help, shape public perception, or discredit those seeking justice only digs a deeper hole. The platforms they use to shield themselves, once seen as strongholds, now turn into spotlights, exposing every transgression. Connections they thought would offer sanctuary suddenly become the very channels through which their actions are condemned. The intricate system of alliances and business contacts built over years ends up being the very thing that entangles them, like a net tightening around its catch. For someone who's built their world on the idea of being untouchable, facing exposure is like standing in a house with walls made of glass. Suddenly, every secret is on display. All the power and protection they thought they had vanishes when confronted with the hard truth. What they never saw coming was that the person they tried so hard to break would be the one to show the world who they really are. Every wound they inflicted, every scheme they ran, every attempt to crush resistance only sharpened your resolve and honed your strength. Their legacy is not in their control anymore. Each wrong step has turned into a stepping stone for the case that will finally end their reign. The hours they spent free were only borrowed, and that time is finally running out. The individual who's been closest to them, someone with an intimate understanding of all their operations, has quietly laid the groundwork for this day. With careful planning and strategic patience, they've watched the tides shift and waited for the right convergence of courage, timing, and proof. The collection of documentation now amassed will not just topple careers and reputations, it will send shockwaves through corridors of power. The sort of evidence about to come to light is so comprehensive, so meticulously detailed, that even their most loyal defenders will abandon them. The illusion of loyalty quickly dissolves when self-preservation is on the line. Former allies vanish as soon as truth steps into the room. The fallout won't be confined to a handful of individuals. Relatives, business partners, politicians, and friends who once stood shoulder to shoulder will suddenly find distance is the safest place to be. Those who were complicit will rush to present themselves as victims, and those who enabled wrongdoing will scramble to offer their own evidence. This isn't the toppling of a single corrupt actor. It's the unraveling of a vast, cross-industry network that's held sway for far too long. The simple act of truth-telling is about to send cracks racing through the entire structure, leaving nothing untouched. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. There is a parallel movement happening, far away from the chaos of collapse. In a space where people meet to support each other's journeys, a call to purpose is being sounded. Individuals from wildly different backgrounds gather in a community forged by experience, insight, and sacrifice. Their collective wisdom, shared in open conversation, serves as a reminder that those who have walked through darkness are uniquely equipped to carry the torch forward. In these circles, each story of survival is treated not as a curse, but as a map, one that others can follow to their own freedom. The waves set in motion by your truth will travel far and wide, stirring up courage where there was fear and solidarity where there was silence. Others who endured in secret will find the strength to step into the light. Ongoing investigations will finally have the last piece of the puzzle. Journalists and advocates hungry for real stories will receive a flood of credible sources. What started as one person's fight becomes the catalyst for a much larger awakening, a movement where accountability can no longer be postponed or avoided. The downfall of the one who tried to erase you will not be quiet, and it will not be hidden. Every piece of their undoing will be witnessed, analyzed, and remembered as a lesson in the cost of unchecked ambition. Their former reputation will be overwritten, not with admiration, but with the facts of their actions. Instead of being a role model, they will serve as a cautionary tale, proof of what awaits those who gamble with other people's lives and underestimate the strength of a determined spirit. Sometimes, a single voice becomes the thunder that rattles the doors of power for everyone still trapped inside. By stepping forward, the impact radiates outward, not just mending the road beneath your feet, but opening the path for every other traveler who was forced into silence or loss by the same darkness. Each word you speak serves as a torch in the hands of those who have been denied light. The transformation isn't only personal, it ripples across lives, histories, and entire communities, sparking a chain reaction that cannot be contained by those who profited from silence. What started as one person's courage turns into a rising tide that pulls down the barriers shielding corruption and brings hope to those still searching for justice. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. What's unfolding behind the scenes is far from ordinary. A cascade of overlooked tools and allies is moving into position. The very instruments once used to hide deception have turned into witnesses. Technology that was believed erased, now revealing archives, deleted files, re-emerging in unexpected places, hidden conversations coming to light. Allies who once endured in silence are finding their voices, drawn together by a common need for truth. Where there was isolation, there is now the promise of unity, as new bonds form among those who finally recognize they are not fighting alone. And at the center, arrogance, once their shield, has left cracks so wide, their own confessions and careless boasts have become the final nails in the coffin. The structure that was built on fear is now trembling from the inside out, destabilized by the very pride that once held it together. All the pieces of evidence, gathered over years and stored by hands they never suspected, are converging now with such force that even the most skilled defenders will find no way out. The case is relentless. Its sheer magnitude forces the opposition to fold, one documented truth after another, weighing down any attempt to deflect or distract. It's not just the prospect of legal punishment that shakes them, it's the certainty that their carefully built image will shatter in the glare of collective scrutiny. Private consequences may be manageable, but public exposure is unbearable for those who've only ever survived in the shadows. When the mask finally drops, every former admirer, every once adoring crowd is forced to see the reality that's always been there beneath the performance. The response from the world will be immediate and overwhelming. As soon as the truth becomes public, condemnation floods every channel. Partners step back. Old friends go silent. Those who benefited from association quickly turn into critics, each step away, making the isolation more complete. The unbreakable persona, maintained for so long, dissolves into vulnerability and regret. The person behind the mask is left facing the truth of who they really are, something you always saw, even when no one else did. This perfect convergence of culture, timing, and courage is exactly what's needed for real change. The appetite for justice is at an all-time high. The world is starved for real accountability, honest stories, and genuine reckoning. The ripple from your act of bravery will inspire countless others who have spent too long swallowing their pain. Every onlooker who thought resistance was pointless will see your victory and find the resolve to push back in their own way. This is how old systems are dismantled. One clear example, one undeniable victory, one proof that speaking up is not only possible, but unstoppable. The lessons learned here become the playbook for those who come after. Proof that principle can overcome power, and that persistence does win. There's an unseen current running through all these events. The people who tried to control what was said and who got to speak never imagined that truth would grow its own wings. They never understood that no matter how many times you close the door, justice can step through the window. They never realized that sometimes life chooses its champions not for their might, but for their willingness to stand tall when everyone else is bowed by fear. That's how real change starts, not from institutions, but from individuals who refuse to back down. All this because you decided to speak, to act, to step forward when the world hoped you would stay silent. Every life that is changed, every injustice that is set right, every system that is rebuilt with greater honesty owes something to this moment. This isn't just your victory, it's a turning point for everyone waiting for the world to change. There's a particular irony in the way those who aim to break others often end up creating their own greatest obstacle. In their attempts to wipe out resistance, they accidentally build the very strength they fear. Every blow they delivered, every trick played, each campaign to shut you down only sharpened your resolve and expanded your capacity. As they tried to cut away your support, they forged a core of resilience so solid it can't be moved. Their scheme to erase your threat didn't end the story. They handed you the very fuel you needed to rise higher and become unstoppable. What's coming to light isn't just a handful of bad decisions or a few isolated incidents. Decades of malice, carefully hidden behind false smiles and calculated gestures, are about to be dragged into the daylight. This is a record of methodical harm, not momentary lapses. Evidence stretches back through years, gathering detail and credibility, and the digital footprints and documented financial trails leave no room for doubt. As this mountain of proof emerges, the world will see not just your story, but the entire mechanism these abusers have relied on to do harm in secret. The tide has already shifted, gaining force with every revelation. Their network, built on threats and promises, is collapsing from within, as those once cowed by fear or enticed by benefit are stepping forward, now potential witnesses ready to reveal the full scope of what's been hidden. The process has become unstoppable, a chain reaction rolling forward with an inevitability that no amount of denial can stop. Whether the wrongdoer tries to run or tries to spin the narrative, their reckoning is set. Your testimony will reshape everything in their world, upending the illusion of invincibility they depended on, and making you the fulcrum on which the entire story turns. Now is the time to share God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube. You can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of His divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as his mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed, and let the light of the Lord guide your path. Behind closed doors and beyond national borders, an even bigger movement has been quietly waiting for this moment. Organizations dedicated to accountability, cross-border justice, and exposing predatory power have been gathering information and building cases with resources and connections reaching further than the perpetrator ever imagined. These alliances have been waiting for one thing: a credible witness with the courage and evidence to unlock a coordinated response. When you step forward, the effect is magnified, turning local outrage into global action and exposing abuse on a scale that will force new standards everywhere it reaches. Where once they believed their influence was confined, that belief is about to be shattered. International alliances with reach into every major institution are preparing to cut ties and sever connections, turning former assets into dead weight. As your truth spreads, the ripple effect will break open old networks, transforming collaborators into liabilities and sending supporters running for cover. Broadcasts and translations will carry your message far and wide, igniting reform in places you've never seen and letting those who thought themselves powerful know that their time of impunity is over. The web that once held you back is now the snare, closing on them. All those who enabled, protected, or profited from the abuse are also being exposed. The roots of corruption that spread across companies, governments, and even borders are being pulled up for all to see, leading to a reckoning that goes far beyond any one person or event. What started as a fight for your own dignity becomes the linchpin in a campaign that will set new precedents for accountability, justice, and the limits of unchecked power. At the core of all this, the perpetrator's main miscalculation was assuming their world was insulated. They filled their life with yes men, with accomplices who echoed back the story they wanted to hear, never imagining that the real threat was quietly growing outside their view. The bubble they crafted to hide from consequence is about to be punctured by reality, and the impact will leave no part of their world untouched. Where they once felt above the rules, your actions are about to remind them. Power is only real when it's accountable, and truth always finds a way out. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. When people try to bury the truth, they always forget how many witnesses there are, how many quietly kept receipts, how many memories locked away just waiting for the right moment. What they believed was hidden in darkness has actually been recorded in 1,000 little ways. Now, as these records come to light, the moves made in secret become proof in public. The response from the one exposed is as predictable as a clock. First come the slurs and smears, then the threats, then the desperate attempts to make the problem go away with hush money or intimidation. But all these frantic efforts do is shine an even brighter spotlight on their guilt, and each failed attempt at defense only draws more allies to your side. What unfolds next is the classic endgame of those who thrive on deceit. Their own machinery turns against them. Their name becomes the warning label, the living example of how schemes built on manipulation always collapse in the end. Courses and books will use their mistakes to teach future leaders about the costs of hubris, while your example is held up as proof that conscience and courage can actually change the world. Their story will serve as a caution against unchecked ambition, while your name will be associated with the transformative power of standing for what's right, no matter the risk. The moment the last piece is in place and the truth can't be ignored any longer, there's a realization even the most arrogant adversary can't avoid. They aren't facing the same person they once tried to break or silence. They're facing the result of every hardship you endured, every lesson you learned, every ounce of perseverance you built while they assumed you would stay silent. The turning of the tide isn't some distant promise. It's happening right now, and the reckoning they so confidently dismissed is arriving at their door.